Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of GFB. Glad everybody could make it. Glad to have the company that we normally keep, and including the return of brother Mike, who was joined us last week. I think it was last week. I get confused sometimes, but yeah, glad you can make it back again tonight, bro. Um, Happy April Fool's Day. I'm usually a little bit more jovial around this time. My birthday is close to this time, so I often have fun with people. But I'm not in a very fun mood this week. There's been a lot personally going on, but also, as many of you are aware, the trial of Officer Chauvin, whatever his name is, the guy who killed George Floyd in front of the nation. I think it was a 9 minute plus knee to the neck, which has been in heavy rotation this week because of the trial taking place. And it's just unfortunate that we have to see all of that over again. But it is hopefully the case that justice is served after everything runs the course of due process. So tonight's topic of discussion, and I don't want to talk terribly long tonight. I really want to get some input from you guys, and hopefully some people out there in cyberspace can chime in via the chat. The topic is justice blind, or is it just playing peekaboo? This nation is notorious for its handling of fair treatment and equal justice where Black Americans are concerned primarily. Long history of it. Few things came to mind as I was thinking about tonight's topic last week and earlier this week. There are far too many examples. There are far too many times that trials have happened, and what the Black community craves in terms of fair treatment and justice and equal treatment under the law just doesn't happen. Rodney King, Trayvon Martin, there's just the list goes on and on and on. And the more extreme examples concern police officers, those who are, of course, sworn to protect and serve. Eric Garner, Philando Castile. Just as I stated, it's just too many to name. And it often weighs heavier on the Black community when these trials run their course and there's no punishment for the parties involved that suits the crime. So in other words, becoming an ex-cop, putting EX in front of cop is not a punishment. It's a shame, maybe, but somebody lost their life. So it's just a topic I want to kind of unpack and explore. And the question is what the question is, and we can unpack it further after that. But is justice blind, or is it just playing peekaboo? Do Black Americans get fair treatment under the law in your eyes? Some of you may counter my narrative. I don't know if you can, but I like to think that there's some other streams of thought on the matter. So I'll start with you, Meryl. Do you have any nuanced thought to the topic that you like to present?
Other than it's, criminal justice system is no different than other systems we have in place that are set up to have Black Americans be at the bottom of results. So it's just kind of like, it's just part and parcel, So I don't know if I necessarily think that all I mean, I'm not a big absolutes person, but I mean, statistics show that that folks that are black, folks that are poor, um, have a raw deal, man. Law is real funny, man. Like you can, lawyer, like the better skilled lawyer that you have can navigate through law language, which common sense to us compared to how law is written. Two very different things I've learned in a whole lot of different cases. And the better skilled lawyer you have, just like the better skilled accountant you have when you're trying to cheat on your taxes, the better things are going to work out. So this system is just another one that's advantage, that's set up to disadvantage black folks to be at the very bottom, but also disadvantage people who don't have the means to be able to navigate through the system. So,
yeah, I think of it in terms of that lack of representation. A lot of times that occurs, of course, at the judicial level. The people sitting in judgment have no real ties or connections to the people they're judging. But it also shows itself, as it has throughout history. Emmett Till, the trial of his murderers comes to mind. The jury plays a significant role.
Yep.
And as someone who is aware of how people generally react when they get jury duty, oh man, I got to get out of that. Man, I'm gonna have to get a letter or something. Somebody gonna have to tell that I can't make it. Mm-hmm. It is our responsibility to, at the minimum, attempt to be chosen for these places and spaces in order that that person on trial, which, as Meryl alluded to, is high percentage chance that that's going to be a Black American poor person that may need you on that jury.
Yep.
So don't run from that. And I know I changed my mind about that many years ago.
Yeah.
And I recall being in a jury pool and sitting there, and the man on trial was a 20-something-year-old Black man. I was a 20-something-year-old Black man. And when they called me in and discussed the parts of the case, however it went, I wasn't chosen. And I was like, if anybody's his peer, I am. But, that's the right of the lawyers and the judge. And so
that's right. You weren't gonna be a good fit.
Just didn't make the cut for whatever reason. Yeah. The representation, I think, is a big part of it. People who actually identify with the community that's being represented. Brother Mike, what are your thoughts on the matter?
It's terrible. Floyd's not on trial. Derek's on trial. But how they'll try to present it to America that the way it's been in the last 3 days, I watched it. It's like George Floyd's on trial. Everything they've stated is just nothing good been in the last 4 days. I've been watching it here and there, not persistently, but I've been watching it here and there. It's bothering me. I go to think about when I piggyback on what Brother Merrill was stating about the system. If you don't have the money to do this, and if you ain't smart enough to do this, you will be a part of the system. I think about the 4 guys that was caught into that thing in New York, supposed to rape that little girl, and how they brainwashed their family to make them believe that they was guilty. The things they told them, the things they said, to make them feel like, look, if you don't say nothing, sir, you're going to wear this charge. And that still happens this day and time now. That happens right now in 2021. That was in the 80s or 90s. So I say that to say this: the system was not built for us then, and the system is not built for us now. People
Brother
may
Mike,
think I'm radical. Huh?
No. I want to give you even one further back than that, man. Check out the Scottsboro Boys if you get a chance.
Okay.
Some young men who, I think it was nine young men who were arrested, dubious circumstances also. And this was back in like the 30s or 40s. They were gonna hang those young men, but their lives
What's
were
the name
ruined
of
after
it?
that. The Scottsboro Boys. It's
Okay.
it's an actual group of young men in Mississippi or Alabama. I can't remember. I think
Okay.
it's Alabama. But yeah, look up the Scottsboro Boys.
So,
Very interesting case.
that's happening in this day and time now, especially when you're not educated. The family's not educated. The family's in stress. They'll believe anything that lawyer or the DA and the prosecutor say. And these young black men and young black women are getting time that they shouldn't get. It's just like the crack epidemic. I was a part of that crack law thing that they gave a 2-level reduction. They sentenced us higher than our guideline. But cocaine, the same substance, get lesser time. So this man that sells the kilo gets 2 years. I'm the man that sells an ounce of crack, get 5 years. But it's the kilo is more than an ounce. So the
And don't have a
system
gun on you. Don't have a gun on you.
right.
So yeah. So yeah, it's a total imbalance, and I think justice is peaking a little bit. She know who she getting at.
That's what I'm about to
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
Justice is not blind. Justice is playing peekaboo.
yeah,
They
yeah.
are playing peekaboo. And the thing is, right now, we have our own local George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. In Griffith County, we got Marcus Smith. We got Tasha Thomas. We got right now in High Point, I'm fighting the case. Just got off the phone with the mother earlier. Our Frederick Cox was an undercover thug, was at a funeral, shot a black man in the back 4 times. Put on me for somebody take what I said. Shot him in the back 2 times, shot him in the side twice. So he was shot 4 times, but supposedly had a gun. Now this family's been 5 months haven't received any information from the district attorney of High Point, Avery Crump. We just got information from the SBI this week. I called SBI last week, and he said there'll be some on the desk this week. So luckily we got something this week. No justice yet. This mother haven't heard anything from no community member of High Point, as in anything about our son's case. So the justice system is playing peekaboo.
Man, I'm glad to hear that you on the case, brother Mike, and I wish you well in that endeavor. And please stay safe and do what your heart leads you to on the matter. But you know, keep it in the line so that you're not dealing with anything that comes back on you that's damaging or harmful. But salute to you for being active in that, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, the ideas around fairness and fair treatment and representation, you have to take into account also, again, the judges who's deciding the matter sometimes and how disconnected they are from the people that they're deciding the matters about.
Not to jump in there once. I don't know if y'all got to see in the Derrick case where he's been charged for fraud. Did you hear that judge tell that woman, you talk to us when we talk to you? Like, he really just went off on her in the midst of that trial. Like, look, you don't talk unless you talking to her. I'm like, wow, how would you even talk to this lady like that? Like she's an animal.
I did not see that. You saying the judge said that to one of the witnesses?
Yeah, he
Okay.
checked her. I sent it to you. Yeah, I
Okay.
sent it
Yeah,
to you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So the thing about a courtroom, and I'm sure majority are aware, even if it's just from watching TV, there is decorum, and the judge is often going to, not allow for certain types of reactions to take place. I'm not familiar with that moment, Mike, but what I was going to give the judge some appreciation for was allowing this trial to be broadcast and streamed. I know he said it was somewhat due to COVID, but this is a moment that is deserving of complete transparency. The nation should be able to tune in to this one. Bob, what are your thoughts on the matter?
From my perspective, this is so self-evident that I don't see how there can exist people that aren't simply under rocks, that think that the system's fair, that think that policing's fair, that think that history's fair, Um, the facts speak for themselves, and if you have any open-mindedness to looking at the facts and looking at the history and looking at how things play, there's only one conclusion you can come to. Unless, in my opinion, you are intentionally working to remain deluded. The justice system, to Merrill's point, is exactly a matter of your resources. It's not about justice, it's about winning. And winning comes from having the best resources. And the best resources come from having the most money. And even if you don't have money yourself, more privileged people have better access to money and the support that money brings to the table. And absent that in the justice system, you're screwed. The jury selection process is a complete game. It's a matter of defense attorneys understand that they have to construct a jury that will give them what they want. It's not about justice. It's about giving them what they want and giving them what will put their name up in lights as being the successful defense attorneys for this despicable thing or that despicable thing. To Mike's point, the business of crack versus cocaine, and who's more apt to use cocaine? Who's more apt to use crack? Again, it's the same stuff. It's just a different delivery system or formulation, and it's the same stuff. It's the same issue, and yet there's a particular demographic that's more apt to use crack, and there's another demographic that's more apt to use cocaine.
That's actually, so there's a leveling of that actually, Bob, and the funny thing is it's just one demographic is more likely to receive criminal punishment for it.
Well, that's true.
Which brings me to one of your observations that I thought was worthy of a comment. So yeah, you have these things, money and some levels of privilege, but you have, along with that privilege, a level of consideration that most Black Americans are definitely woefully lacking when it comes to common sense situations. When it comes to less force versus more force, there's often a lack of consideration for the humanity of that person of a darker hue, which is, I think, at the core, and I don't have to call it racism. I'll just call it a lack of consideration for someone's humanity, because you just feel it's a need to overreact or overexert, because, as they kept mentioning in the first day of the trial, 6'1" Black man. Okay. Don't take the job of a police officer if your limitations are 6'1" Black man. Do not become a police officer because there's some 6'1" Black guys that exist. I'm 6'4". So don't take that job if when you see 6'1" and above, you just think you got to kill him.
Well, and one of the things we talked about yesterday, I think that's key to this too, and that is that if there wasn't a specific policy breached, if there wasn't a particular regulation breached, if it's not something that's documented in the book that was breached, not guilty. Where does decency, where does good judgment, where does sensible judgment come into play? And I can tell you this story several years ago. It's probably 7 or 8 years ago. My son, who was probably at the time 22, 23, had a encounter with a policeman in Greensboro. And my son was in the right. The policeman was in the wrong. The policeman wouldn't relent. My son wouldn't relent. He stood his ground. He demanded that the policeman supervisor be called and to come to the situation, which happened. But as my son was telling me the story, my immediate reaction, and I said this to him, good thing you're not black, because it would never have played the same way. It would never, and I'm certain of that. I'm absolutely certain of that.
Yeah, it's different. And that's what I mean by that level of consideration. Even if it's tinged with that entitlement that comes with, you know, I can tell you something that you gonna do because I'm a citizen that knows my rights. And if you're white, that just resonates better, right? So even if it comes with that level of privilege, it's still a consideration. I recall once being in a car with some friends. We're driving to Atlanta for a football game, and my buddy did not have a rear view mirror. And I didn't realize this until we got well on the road. And I'm like, man, where your mirror at? And he's like, I don't know, man. It came off. I couldn't get it stick back up there. So we're riding, we get through South Carolina, and sure enough, we get pulled over. And I'm like, the rearview mirror, man, this gonna get us. I don't know how this is gonna work out. Short story long, the police officer or the state trooper pulls us over. I'm a little extra, but I relent because I'm not driving the car. Asked to search. Can we get out the car? So my bag's in the car. Of course, he's wanting to search everything, blah, blah, blah. He searches the car, says he smells weed. Nobody's smoking weed. Nobody has any weed. All of that, checks our bags, side of the highway, finds nothing. Partner comes. Partner's just, hey, you guys just stay cool. You know, we're upset. Other guy with is very upset. And I'm like, man, this you can't win this battle. No need to keep talking. Just let them do what they're doing. He's giving them permission. Get back in the car. No ticket, no nothing. And no mention of the rearview mirror. How much attention are you paying to any situation if you don't notice that and you're a police officer?
That's the probable cause to search it up.
Didn't mention it. That's what I'm saying.
No, I'm saying though, but
they never mentioned it.
But see, that's what they throw the loopholes in there. A tail light out. These different things will give me a probable cause to bother me.
I totally agree. But he didn't even notice it because he thought he had something else. Saw a car with 3 black guys in it, out of state tags, whatever. Never mentioned the rearview mirror because it wasn't his agenda.
That's the probable cause, 3 black guys.
There you go.
State tags.
This was years and years ago. I want to say it was even before profiling became a thing. And that was what it was. I don't think that the understanding of what racial profiling was as rampant and known as it is now. But that's what it was. Undoubtedly.
I have to interject this. You've never told me that story or any other story like that.
Oh, I have others.
I know.
Yeah.
We talk. But I, without even asking you, I knew you had those stories.
Yeah.
Because every single black person I know has those stories. Yeah. And I don't have one of my own. But I knew you'd have one.
Yeah. Got plenty of. And it's unfortunate. But sometimes, and this is why I don't paint with a broad brush, we understand statistics. We understand when something has been normalized. But I've had interaction with police officers that were above and beyond considerate of what they knew this interaction was potentially triggering within me. And that's happened at different stages of my life, but I've had the hostile ones also. It's a mixed bag, but a lot of times that bag can easily falter on the side of the black person experiencing some kind of trauma, which I'll get to in a moment, in terms of the things psychologically that Black Americans have to deal with when witnessing or being a part of these type of situations. This has been a traumatic week. But Jess, I want you to chime in if you got something to say. I know you're a man of many words, but what are your thoughts on tonight's topic?
Well, Well, what I have to say is it's all about money and the how much influence you have within the system.
So I do believe economics plays a role. However, I also believe the conditioning of the people involved in the matter also can negate financial viability in certain situations. And that's some of that psychological stuff too. So the most well-to-do black man or woman can be accosted or disrespected by police officers. They still have to carry that weight, even if it's found out later that they're someone that should not have had to deal with that type of situation. And then, like I said, that psychological part brings me to something I wanted to share, and it's definitely going to be paraphrased because it's a story that I recall from listening to a podcast, but it was very profound. And it was on Malcolm Gladwell's podcast, Revisionist History, a couple years ago. And it was concerning Vernon Jordan, who's recently deceased. He was a well-known attorney. He came up under the wing of Donald Hollowell, who was another iconic figure in Black history in terms of what he did as a lawyer in a period of time when civil rights leaders were being constantly harassed and arrested, and one of his clients was Martin Luther King Jr. But Vernon Jordan came up under him, and he told this story or told this part of the story on the podcast where I guess it was in the 50s or 60s, probably the 50s. He's a young lawyer and he's working with Donald Hollowell, and they're somewhere in Georgia, and a black former soldier, I want to say he had a Purple Heart or something because of the damage he received in fighting in war, had been accused of raping a white woman and was in jail awaiting his execution. And Vernon Jordan, this is like his first case. He's gung ho about doing something good, doing something right. And Donald Hollowell's a seasoned vet, and he's going through the motions, but he's seen some of this type stuff before. So they get to the point where they pretty much understand that what happened that evening was they were in a car somewhere, and the woman was actually having an affair with the black man, and there was something that took place, a disagreement or what have you. And she went home and decided that she would say that she had been raped, which immediately put this black man in the crosshairs of the police and other people as well. So to get to the point about the psychological ramifications, the unfortunate thing is that this black man never stood a chance. And when Vernon Jordan and Donald Hollowell went to this judge to try to get this stay of execution and had evidence and things that they thought would warrant this thing slowing down, the judge said, justice delayed is justice denied. And Vernon Jordan tells the story, and I definitely recommend, if you have the chance, look it up. It's Malcolm Gladwell's Revisionist History from a couple seasons ago, so you have to do a little homework in that. But Vernon Jordan tells of how he left that office, and he just was emotionally fractured. And he walks down the street and he's talking about this new suit that he had just gotten. And he said he completely lost control of his bladder. He just urinated. He said he just urinated all over himself. So that is an example of what type of trauma can be visited upon people that are close to situations or those that just witness it. And it doesn't have a color, but it does have an inferred population that it affects that much more. If you guys remember a couple weeks ago, I showed a clip of Latasha Harlan, and the clip showed the reaction of the Black community after the judgment was pretty much passed, and the Korean grocery store owner received no time. That weight of just disappointment, false hope, is a burden that has been bared by generation upon generation upon generation of Black American. There are far too many stories to tell about the injustices that have been witnessed and experienced. So since it kind of became a theme here, somewhat of a question, anyone else on this call can speak to any experiences they've had with authorities or witnessed any situations that affected them. And it doesn't have to be something you did up close and personal. It could be something that you actually saw on TV. I know Eric Garner's murder was particularly triggering for me. Clearly stating he couldn't breathe. Hands up. Philando Castile, triggering for me. Daughter in the car. What happens to them after the trending moment ends? What are they doing now? What is that little girl dealing with because of that situation? Whew. All right, Mara, what you got, man? Anything that you can share in terms of personally being affected by this type of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I can think about a lot of times being a student at Chapel Hill and being in a car where the tent was like a little too dark. I can remember several times like having like issues with that, like with several friends or somebody questioning, am I a student? You know, that type of deal. So I can think about that. That's a little more frivolous. I can think about I talk to one of my friends about this all the time. We just bring it up every now and then, just reminiscing about the past. But, you know, I remember my first summer coming back home, you know, after being my first semester at undergrad at Chapel Hill and just hanging out. And, you know, maybe it's like 1, 2 o'clock at night. And I'm taking my, with my homies home, and State Patrol. I think it was a State Patrol. I can't remember now because it's been so long. I mean, I'm closer to 50 than 40, so mine starts to go a little bit. But but I remember State Patrol, or it could have been one of our finest, sheriff or something in Rockingham County, follows me. If you know where Chinkapin is, folks in Reedsville know kind of where that is. So that's kind of where he lived, and the cops following us, man, and like got his lights on, like high beam, just following, just close enough to where, I notice him. And you know how it is, like you haven't done anything wrong, but just like history tells you, and I was in high school when the Rodney King happened, you just start thinking about, hey, what's all the things I did wrong in my life? I was like, did he figure something out, And finally pulls us over, and there was just a clear attempt to trigger me and my partner, and he just wanted to get a reaction out of me. And I've listened to Bob's story talk, his son and folks that are white, right, can experience like this. I can talk to the police any type of way I want to, and I can question stuff because like there's this thing where it's like you work for me, buddy, that type of deal. But I knew this guy was trying to trigger and get a response out of me. But just my personality, I wasn't gonna let him get the response. Now, my friend was acting a fool. And I was like, man, don't get us both shot out here because nobody will know anything. They'll make up a story. And like Dave Chappelle said, they'll sprinkle some crack on us and and that'll be the end of that, man. But I just remember like how crazy that was. And like he asked me to get out of my car, get into his car for what I have no idea what. And I just, he just kept on saying like little wild stuff. And I just calmly, the equivalent of like, putting your tail between your legs. That's the thing that frustrates me is like, you want to have some agency. And I've always been a person to like believe in my own agency and my rights. And I know what my rights were. But at that moment, like I went into, I got to get home mode. And it's such a difficult thing to be able to kind of get yourself in that space. And it's a struggle, man. I got my nephew is driving now, and I think a lot about that, like having that conversation. It's like you want to stand up and, have your back straight. But like there's these situations where if you want to survive, or at least you want to figure out a way to be able to get some justice later, maybe. Put your damn tail between your legs, man. It's not cool.
I like to think, and I like to not adhere to the mean world theory. So as much as I'm aware of certain things, my goal in every interaction with another human being is to appeal to reason, which is what separates us from the animals. However, when you deal with an unreasonable person, you're absolutely right. You run the risk of not making it to your destination.
Right. Like if it had been daytime, maybe I might have felt more comfortable if it was like in public and we were on like Scale Street or something. I might have felt a little bit more comfortable about being a little more resistant, or at least like standing up for myself and like, because it's literally it was just straight harassment. But I knew in that situation, it was, it was me and him and his story, and that was what was going to live. And I just, I had to get home. So, chill out.
The area you're speaking of, man, I myself probably would have driven to some other. He would have just had to follow me for a little while, because it is a little different out there.
I didn't want to piss him off, man.
Yeah, you didn't want to get lost in the woods, so yeah, I don't blame you for that. But yeah, maybe just drive a little further into town if you want to have a different reaction. But yeah, Bob, you got any other stories that you're aware of or interactions that you could maybe make fit this narrative? I don't want to make this a black or a white thing, because I'm going to say this. I don't subscribe to the mean world theory, but sometimes people that are in a position of power can just be complete jerks, and they don't necessarily have to see color. They can just make it about the situation.
Yeah, and as I said a few minutes ago, I have never been stopped by a policeman for any reason other than legitimate speeding. And the stories like Meryl just told, I hear those stories. They to have that story to tell, and to have that story to hold, is awful. It's just for that to be. If I were, I know where Chinquapin is, and if I were there and I were pulled over by a policeman in the middle of the night, I'd just go, wonder what he wants. It wouldn't worry me. I would, that's the difference. And that is such an extraordinary difference. It is such a wrong difference of experience and expectation.
Yeah, the processing that must take place, in my opinion, and it's generally among most black men that get pulled over in those situations. The processing is immense. What did I do? Hands on the steering wheel, make sure your seatbelt. The things that people might normally think of, but there's a little bit more of a heightened level of pressure to it. And it's a conditioning. It just is something that has become normalized. And like I say, I try to push against some of those mean world implications, and just, hey, I'm gonna have a conversation. Hopefully it's a reasonable one. Doesn't always work out that way, but sometimes you get away with it. Brother Mike, you got any situations you want to share?
Well, I encountered one last week. I was on Summit Avenue. I'm an activist. I'm always engaging in my community. So when I got to Summit Avenue, I seen that it was a drug deal went bad. So I seen a bunch of narcotics out there. So as I'm sitting there, just taking on what's going on, observing the area. They got the two guys that was in the car arrested. They in back of the patrol car. I see a young lady on the side of the Tahoe with one of the narcotics. So I'm like, well, this must be a car that had called her there and told these guys that these guys was driving their car and made a drug deal. So I'm trying to get them the benefit of the doubt. That's what maybe what's going on. So I'm waiting on my daughters. I pump gas, waiting on my daughters in Little Caesars, getting the pizza. I bag up. The lady is still on the other side of the truck. So I pull that away because I'm curious after I get my daughters in out of Little Caesars. What is going on? I get on the other side. This lady is pregnant and she's handcuffed in the back. Now, I go to my activist work now. I turn my camera on, get out of the car, ask them why is this young lady not sitting down and she's pregnant and under arrest. And the two gentlemen, y'all done took them to the precinct. They are in custody. And this lady's been standing up at least 15, 20 minutes. I've been there at the store for at least 15 minutes, so I add another 5 minutes because I know that y'all had to get gentlemen out the car and handcuff them and read them their rights. So I had 5 more minutes to it because I know how the system is. So the guy gets an attitude with me. What are you talking about? She's pregnant. I can see she's pregnant. Do you know she's pregnant? Ma'am, are you pregnant then? Let me ask her right in front of y'all then. Yes, sir, I'm pregnant. Sir, so I said, well, why can't she sit down? Make a long story short, he says we asked her, did she want to see? I said, well, you shouldn't just ask her, did she want to see? If it was your mother or your girlfriend or your daughter, you would make a seat for them. So this cop gets a real nasty attitude with me. I thank God for my growth. I thank God for my activists, that I know how to just be calm with them and not even entertain them, not stoop to their level. So I'm saying that to say this is that right there, I seen how the system is not built for us, that they're trying to use us and take advantage of us. If you don't know the law, they'll do whatever they can to you. And that's what I seen right there that day, that they were just doing us any kind of way.
Yeah, there's definitely some moments of consideration that I feel like have shown themselves not to be as apparent as they should be when it comes to some policing. Part of the conversation that I actually was having with Bob yesterday was concerning a moment I remember some years ago having a meeting with some local Greensboro police officer representatives, and something I had noticed that was taking place more and more, and this was around the time of I want to say it was around the time of Eric Garner. So something that grates me about police encounters with civilians when it gets escalated and there's this thing that they say is a de-escalation, but I don't think that it is, and maybe they don't say it, but it comes across. Stop resisting is not de-escalation. And at what point does resisting become not trying to have my arm broken, or not trying to be choked unconscious, or not being assaulted, or the handcuffs are uncomfortable, can you please take them and loosen them, whatever the case may be. Screaming and yelling, stop resisting, is counterproductive to de-escalation in my mind. And I've witnessed it so many times that I asked that representative, "Are you trained to do that?" And he didn't give me a clear answer. But yeah, that's that to me makes no sense in terms of being a de-escalation tactic. So anyway, this week has been a trying one in terms of that trauma that we just discussed. A lot of times it weighs on those that are more prone to have similar reactions or similar encounters with police officers, to witness this trial and to witness past trials and just wait for justice to show itself. And every now and then we get a glimpse of it. This particular case, George Floyd's murder, has shown itself, in my opinion, via the recordings, to be black and white. I don't foresee this being able to be the egregious letdowns that we've had in the past. However, I think about Trayvon Martin, not a police officer, but he's going through the neighborhood and some guy follows him, attacks him, and gets away with it, because as is seemingly taking place now, Trayvon Martin was more on trial than George Zimmerman. So we have to be conscious of this stuff as we watch and witness it. We have to have allyship from other groups as it occurs, so that it can be understood what it means to be representative in certain spaces, whether it be a lawyer, whether it be a judge, whether it be a jurist. We have to really consider one another's humanity for us to do anything that comes close to pulling that blindfold completely over justice's eyes. Before we get out of here, I want to ask, go around the room, get some input, ask for final thoughts, but also ask you guys if you have any thoughts on solution. So final thoughts and solution. Bob, I'll start with you.
I don't think that I have anything more to say. And I struggle with the issue of solutions, because we make laws, we make constitutional amendments, and we don't pay attention to them. We make laws, and laws don't change hearts. The solution we have so created a delusion about ourselves in this country from the very beginning. It's about the undoing of that, it seems to me. And right now, we don't have the willingness to be honest. We have more willingness maybe than we did 10 years ago, but we have less belief in truth. than we did 10 years ago. So what do you do with that? I don't know. I hate to say I'm just not an optimist on this. As much as I want to be, I just don't know.
Yeah, I get your frustration and the points of inarticulation because it's a heavy topic and it's not something that you can say, oh, I know this will work, because history proves otherwise. As you stated, amendments are made and we fail to enforce and protect those who were the subject of those amendments, those who were supposed to benefit from those amendments. And we refuse to go back and say, hey, wait a minute, we messed this up. We got to go redress this.
Right. And until we're all legitimately and truly neighbors, and there's not an inclination toward that, I think that if there were an inclination toward that, that would be very healing and that would be very positive. But we don't have an inclination toward that.
Has to be intentional. Has to be
intentional.
Yeah, it has to be a desire and a willingness to be intentional in doing so, and you got to take it home and to your other relatives. And I'm speaking to white allies. You got to take it to the people that's closest to you, because there's a lot of times we won't get to be in that space or place. So you got to take it with you wherever you go. Meryl,
Tango's point's exactly right.
Yeah, acknowledgement. Meryl, what are your final thoughts on? And you got any solutions?
I had a few things. I was like, we need some more white folks to be mad about this. That's number one. But something you said too, I've started thinking about this, is like representations, like so lawyers, judges, all that type of stuff that needs to happen. But that's, of course, it's the cyclical, and these systems are set up for folks to not be exposed. More civic engagement is the type of stuff that Mike is doing, is getting activated and getting young folks and other people in the community to like realize their agency and get mad and be able to be an accountable group, because if you build like these voting blocks, you build power. I really believe these commissions and all these things that are available for the county and the city, there needs to be more representation of people getting involved. I have another thing I think about is I got a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, whose son was tragically murdered, in August of 2019. And the courts are understaffed, man. I mean, like, it might be damn 2023 before, everything is resolved. I mean, luckily they found the people who did this to her son, but like they are, and the attorneys, district attorneys, like they will say it in behind closed doors that there's just not enough people. They got too many cases and that type of stuff. And I think the last thing that I was thinking is that, more cops and police officers need to really be from the neighborhoods that they police. So that's just those are my initial thoughts. But if we can just get some more white people to be mad, I mean, I'll be happy with that.
So much of this stuff is maddening for other reasons, so the police officers need to be from where they police. A lot of times police salaries don't pay enough for them to remove themselves farther from that poverty that they probably are experiencing in the neighborhood that they would be policing.
True that too.
There's so much to unpack.
It's layered.
It's so layered. And there's some really thick and rough and tough layers in between the other layers.
Straight up.
Jess, you got any final thoughts on things, or any solutions, ideas, or solutions?
Well, my thing is, I know there's a lot of problems out there, but my main focus is training people on digital skill sets, on trying to how to better themselves in becoming economically sustainable. We have a lot of young Black men and women out there that have a lot of ideas, a lot of talents, and it needs to be focused into this new digital transformation that's happening uh, within this world today.
Yeah, I definitely think time spent in more productive places would actually take precedent if those opportunities presented themselves, which is another one of those layers. I don't think anybody wakes up every day and says, let me go flirt with getting in trouble and having to deal with the potential loss of my life or freedom. I think it becomes something that is an option solely because of there's a significant lack of opportunity and real chances that elevate you without significant risk. Brother Mike, you
Well,
got any last
there,
thoughts? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jess. Go ahead, Jess.
there is no opportunities that they can see as of right now, and organizations like mine and Merrill's are trying to get to that point where they can see where they can grow and survive in these communities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the touching of individuals where they're at, youth or adults, doesn't matter. We need to make sure we are engaging with our community members, and I think this is a part of that too. Just the conversations matter. The unpacking of ideas matter. Hopefully, this reaches somebody and gives them some pause and consideration, even if it's to the point of the next time they get the jury duty summons. That means something. Go do it. Brother Mike, I'm gonna give you the last word, unless Danya has something to say at the very end. Danya, give me the head up, the thumbs up or the head nod, and I'll let you get some words in. But otherwise, I know you're doing what you do. But Brother Mike, go ahead, take us home.
Oh man, just to piggyback on what you said earlier, man, justice delayed is justice denied. Wait, we've been waiting 400 years. Tired of waiting. Sick of waiting. Not gonna wait. No justice, no peace. I got parents out here, I got mothers out here that can't sleep. The community won't sleep. We don't get no justice, you don't get no peace. I don't care wherever you at. We will march, we will petition, we will wherever things are going, writing, conversating, making phone calls to get our voices heard, to have our voices heard. That's the committees I work with all over North Carolina. That's what we've been doing. Phone calls a day with the mother of Frederick Cox, Miss Tanika Shannon, about that case up there in High Point. That this crooked thug, supposed to be undercover Lexington cop, Detective Thug Hill, shot her son, killed her son at a funeral. It's wrong. As our brother Merrill said, until some more white people get mad, they ain't gonna get to understand it. But we need more white people to get mad. We need more people to get mad. We need our own people to get mad. We need y'all to understand. And as our brother Jess was saying about the teaching of something, they need to stop expelling our kids. Stop suspending these kids from school. That's the start of prison right there. Stop expelling our kids out of school. That's where you're setting them up for failure. That's where you're setting them up to go to prison. Set them aside and teach them where they messed up at. Not expel them and send them home where their mom's not even in the house. Their mom's at work. So what is this child gonna do? So that's what we're setting them up for failure. And you institutionalizing them when the bell ring in school. That's prison right there. So let's change that school system stuff so things will start changing in our community. That's us people start thinking a little different. Things will be a little different. And then we need more people speaking up and speaking out. If anybody has seen any of these people's names on this list, say their name, and said anything they done, they deserve to be dead, you need to go back and check yourself. You need to go back and check yourself. We can recall just in 2020, the ones that have lost their life in 2020 don't deserve to be dead. Unarmed. Now those who armed, white people that was took into restaurants and got food. So we ain't gonna go there, but I'll unpack that on another day with you. So let's see what's right and what's wrong here, my sisters and my brothers, black and white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever color you is. So we need to start looking at what's right and what's wrong. Justice delayed, justice denied is justice delayed is justice denied. So the justice has been delayed for so long. We've been denied justice, man. Right now, George Floyd was on trial the last 4 days, not dirt. That is so wrong. That is so wrong.
Yeah,
So we need
the amount
more
of
people to get mad.
the amount of effort that has to be put in to convict a police officer under these type circumstances is pretty dynamic. Tango chimed in. We need white people mad about systemic racism, not only when in the presence of black people. We be mad on our behalf, especially when we're not at the table. Even more
Absolutely.
allies are needed. Yeah,
Absolutely.
be down like John Brown. That's my saying. Go look up
Absolutely.
John Brown. It's one of my favorite people. Listen, this was a wonderful conversation. We're over time, and I don't mind it when it's robust and so thought provoking. So I'm glad that everyone had the time and the bandwidth to be here tonight. You guys have put a little bit more of a battery in my back after a rough week. I'm glad to spend this time with some awesome folks. Danya, you wanna say good night to the people?
Like Russell Simmons.
Yeah, exactly. Danya probably don't even know what that's about.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nah, not really.
We too old. We too old for that.
That's I say one solution is probably not going to happen, but they need better either tests or screenings for whoever they decide is to be a cop. Because I saw a video, and when they was pulling George Floyd out of his car, one of the cops was like, he knocked on the window with his gun, and one of the people who was observing that on the news, they were saying like you shouldn't be doing that because what happened if you discharge your weapon? George Floyd would have passed away earlier than that. So if I see I haven't got pulled over before. That's why I didn't say nothing earlier. But how am I supposed to feel when you see a cop sitting somewhere and you don't know what kind of attitude those coppers may have if they do pull you over. That's
Yeah,
just
there's a thing called gun stress, man. It's actually a form of torture, right? So yeah, I don't know anybody that just sees anyone with a gun and is like, hey, let me run over and talk to this guy. So yeah, if a police officer or a civilian or a trooper, a soldier, whoever, if anybody has a gun in a civilian situation, and if they're brandishing it, Danya, as you just stated, occurred, that's immediate stress. That's immediate. Oh my, hold on now. What's getting ready to happen?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, great statement though, Danya. Hey, thank you for sharing that. That is a practical thing. Do better with the hiring process. I agree. And don't rehire people who offend in other districts, which is something that I'm aware of that took place most recently. I think a cop that lost his job in Greensboro was rehired in Alamance County or something.
It was hot. Yeah, we'll be there Saturday. If you ain't got nothing to do with anybody watching, come join us Saturday at 10 o'clock in Alamance County.
Brother Mike knows what I'm talking. He knows what I speak of. Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
my brother.
All right. Hey, listen, y'all have a wonderful night. This has been awesome again.
I want to mention something real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
So two things real quick, just to kind of throw it out there, and Tango and I are part of this coalition of agencies and folks in Rockingham and Caswell County that's working together with my future NC to address some issues with the prison pipeline, preschool prison pipeline. So, I mean, there are some agencies and some folks that are really thinking about how to do some work in this area. And then I can post on the NC 100 page the Catholic diocese in Raleigh. Here where I am, they're having these really large dinners called Drexel dinners, where they just bring people from all walks of life to have like challenging conversations, just in a dinner format, 2 hours. I went yesterday. I was in a really good group of folks, and they really are trying to look to have conversations across lines of difference. So not everybody was drinking the Kool-Aid. So it was, they really want to try to have open conversation. So, I'll definitely share it on the Instagram 100 page. I found it really interesting.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I
you
think
go eat dinner anyway.
yeah,
So
and then why not eat with somebody new and different, and maybe it'll
100%.
spark up a different conversation. I definitely look forward to potentially engaging in that. And Biles is absolutely right about Tamir Rice. Another unfortunate circumstance. I spoke about his mother a couple weeks ago on here. And then another announcement that needs to be made. We will be off next week, so if you tune in, it should be some good sound bite replays that Danya's putting together, if I'm not mistaken, for next week's broadcast. But we'll return bigger and better and stronger than ever. So next week, catch a greatest hits of GFB, and we'll see you the week after. You all have a wonderful evening and take care. I'm glad to see you. Everybody, stay safe. Be good.
All right. Peace out.